Once upon a time in the NFL, there was this thing called home field advantage. It was kind of a big deal. You could find it in Pittsburgh amid the hordes of Steelers fans waving terrible towels and terrifying opponents. Or in Buffalo, where diehards in Zubaz pants mock freezing visitors in late-season games. Or in Seattle, where the 12s have broken both sound records and the communication of opposing offenses. It's been assumed in the NFL, as in most sports, that home is where the wins are. But then, home field advantage disappeared. Home teams outscored away teams by just 14 points this season, or 0.05 points per game. That's the second lowest margin on record. More on the lowest in a moment. Teams are 127, 128, and 1 at home this year, below 500 for the first time ever. The Chiefs' only losses came in Kansas City. The Giants' big win against the Seahawks was in Seattle. The Rams lost to the Jets in Los Angeles.
And it's very disappointing.
Vegas has caught on. Odds makers have favored home teams by an average of 1.06 points this season, by far the lowest on record. Dave Mason from BetOnline told me that sportsbooks started the year valuing home field advantage at about 2 points. But after taking some losses in the first month of the season, they started adjusting to value it less and less. Right now, it's worth about half a point, if anything.
I disagree, Gary.
When COVID-19 restrictions forced the San Francisco 49ers to relocate to Arizona in Week 13, the odds on their home-away from home games didn't change at all, according to Mason. So what happened? There would seem an obvious culprit. Stadiums have been empty or mostly empty this season due to COVID-19 safety protocols, and the artificial crowd noise the NFL pumps in isn't nearly as loud as the real thing. That makes communication easier for visiting offenses and denies home teams the emotional boost they get from fans. You know how in a big moment, a quarterback playing at home will often gesture to the crowd to quiet down so he can call a play? That didn't happen this season until Week 14, when Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield had to shush the 12,000 fans who were allowed in First Energy Stadium late in Cleveland's game against the Ravens. Aaron Rodgers, a master of the hard count, got a free play that turned into a touchdown in New Orleans in Week 3 when his sleight of voice induced Saints linebacker Demario Davis to jump off sides on a 3rd and 3 in the fourth quarter. Would Davis have heard Rodgers' false cadence if 75,000 Saints fans had been in the Superdome that day? Probably not. But there's a twist. Remember, 2020's games have had the second lowest scoring margin between home and road teams. The lowest? It was 2019. In fact, last year, road teams actually outscored home teams by 0.14 points per game. Home teams still had the better record, going 132, 123, and 1 overall. So it's not quite case closed that COVID-19 protocols took away home field advantage.